All right. Bijal Patel is in the house, the branding
Woo!
queen. Bijal, so good to have you on. I know we had to reschedule because of my schedule a few different times, but I'm glad we finally did it.
That's all good, dude. You're busy. You just got like Tim Grover and stuff showing up at your events. So I get it, man. You're a busy man.
Yeah, no big deal. So I had to have you on because for those of you guys who aren't familiar with Bijal, she runs an amazing branding
Mhm.
company, and we are going through a rebrand of our martial arts school as we turn this into a franchise model. And while I love marketing, I'm great at marketing, I knew that I was missing a lot of pieces as far as branding goes. So everyone I know recommended Bijal. So I reached out to her and she blew the expectations away of branding and made me actually have a more intimate relationship with the brand and the meaning of the brand and who we're going after and all of that. So I obviously had to have you on here and sharing your knowledge with the rest of the industry.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. It makes me so happy to hear as like multiple serial entrepreneur like yourself, super successful, so many different companies, expert marketer. You've done so many things and to be able to get to be a part of your brand story and to be able to grow something that's going to turn into an enormous movement across America. It was exciting. Like the pleasure really was like all ours. So thanks for having us to build that with you. That was really awesome.
Of course, it was a no-brainer, and I can't wait to see what this thing looks like in 10 years from now. But let's dive right into branding because I think,
Yeah.
especially a lot of local business owners, sort of have a incorrect preconceived notion of branding being logo and colors. And
Yes.
as we found out from working for with you, it is so much more than that. So just sort of let everyone know what is actually branding entail because I think everyone has such a narrow microscope on it that it's much bigger than what they think.
Yeah, the best way I can describe it is branding is like a cake. And the part that everyone sees, that 10% of the fonts and the colors and the logos, the visual, is the frosting on the cake. And 90% of it is the cake itself inside of it. So that's what we call the brand strategy. So, like understanding the mission, the vision, the secret sauce of the company, the differentiators, the brand messaging, the brand positioning, the ethos. What do you want to craft as the message that people should be saying behind your brand? What are your competitors doing and how are we differentiating against that so we can have you dominate the market? So I think people don't understand that it's actually the brand strategy that's 90% of whether a branding project in general is effective or not. People get a little bit caught up in like judging the book by its cover, and it's important, but it's only 10% important.
I agree. And one of the things I was really impressed with is you guys really found a way to sort of pull out my inner why and my heart and put it into the brand, which I think before that to me, it was just sort of like a business concept, right? And that's sort of just, it was like an empty shell that was missing all the organs on the inside. And besides making it look great, you guys really got me to connect to my own brand more than I thought I was going to be able to in the early stages. So can you give some advice to people listening to this that aren't really sure about like the vision, the mission statement, the story, the why behind it on how to actually pull that out?
Yeah, for sure. It's very difficult for people to do that. People who come to us are established entrepreneurs, whether they're brick and mortar like you are, or they have an online business like you are too. They have some idea of what their mission is and what their vision is, but it's like dead on a worksheet that they did 2 years ago and some coaching mastermind program they're in. And
Yep.
it's not valuable. So nobody remembers it, including the owner, much less none of their staff has any idea what it is. It's in some kind of employee manual somewhere and no one cares. That's useless. That's not the point of having a mission statement. And so the piece that I could recommend doing on your own, which is really hard to do, it's like trying to read the label from inside the bottle. But a good start of it is the simplest thing I can ask you is what is it that your business exists for? And the second thing is why does your business exist to help make the world a better place? If you can just start on those two things and literally write them out, spend 45 minutes of thinking time on each, and just try to let yourself dream and explore uninhibited. What would it really look like? So for you, Adam, I distinctly remember our first call and we talked about having 1,000 locations of your martial
Yep.
arts studio of Move across the country that would help 1 million kids.
Exactly.
1,000 studios, 1 million kids. How simple is that? I remember that months later, right? Because it's so short, it's so catchy, it's so palpable, and it's big. You want to sink your teeth into it. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. And even though we started with that, you guys really just kept adding layers to what the brand was based on the conversations that we had. And I know for those of you guys who don't know, we're rebranding to Move MUV. And one of the things that I love that you and Deborah came up with was sort of the meaning behind Move, where we were talking about motivated minds, unlimited potential, valuable life skills. And just that in itself makes it stand out, I think, in the marketplace, because in our industry, the branding is non-existent, and a lot of times there's lots of eagles and dragons and tigers and bears and all the above. So when we were talking about creating a martial arts brand, and I know you have some familiarity with our industry from speaking at Chris's event as well, what was
Yeah.
going through your guys' mind about how to make the look and sound of it stand out in this marketplace?
Well, one thing was clear, like a lot of our inspiration, Adam, we pulled from you. And so knowing that you are multiple serial entrepreneur, that you're young and hip, you have 3 boys,
Thank you
and
for
just
calling me
knowing your
young.
yeah, well, young-ish, but your personal style and understanding that you are an industry disruptor in the martial arts world. And so there's no way that we could tie you back to tired old dragon concepts that are so dead. The kids of 2022 and beyond, they're not attached to that. They don't care about that. That's been there, done that. They're not used to that. And so Adam, a lot of our inspiration was actually pulled from you, and that's how we work with clients. So when you came in, and if you remember, we wanted to take you down this cool physics, science like
I remember
direction.
that.
You kiboshed that real quick, but you'll notice our team doesn't take things personally. Our design is successful when we bring our craft with your mind together. So we really have to be a partnership in cultivating what that looks like. So you came back and you're like, hey, listen, all the kids, they're just always on their video games. Like my boys are on their video games a lot. They love Minecraft. They love all these gaming systems. What can we do related to that? And that's the spark that took us off to say, what if we went ahead and took martial arts and intersected it with gamification and
Yep.
took that type of approach in terms of taking this industry forward because you want to disrupt it and you've already proven that you've done it in the past and you're continue to do that. So you're a big part of it.
Yeah, and you guys did such a good job. There were thoughts in my head that I didn't know how to communicate that you put on paper, and I was like, that was exactly what I wanted, and I had no idea how to tell them that. So that was awesome. We also talked a lot about one of my favorite things you had me do is, hey, you're like, hey, think of your brand as a person. How would
Yeah.
they greet somebody? And just putting it in that perspective got me to think about the brand of Move in a totally different way as hey, what would this person say? What would they sound like? What would their attitude be like?
Yeah.
So brand voice is never talked about in our industry whatsoever. I think
Yeah.
probably a majority of people listening to this call don't even know what it is. Tell us a little bit about how you help people like myself figure out what the brand voice is.
Now we actually have a quiz that people take that will identify what their brand voice is.
Mm,
And we've taken
that's cool.
brand voice and we've simplified it into a pie chart with 4 quadrants. So we actually take people, we'll give them a unique archetype that's associated with their brand voice. And so this isn't the typical, what brand archetype are you? And like throwing people into buckets as if this is like a horoscope. We're not playing that game. We're using it specifically and we've adapted it to tone of voice to say, hey, are you the serious orderly type that like creates structure and creates innovation like Apple? Or are you the renegade rebel like Virgin Atlantic is and Richard Branson? Who are we talking about here? Disney's a great example of somebody who knows and owns their voice. We create magic. You're a hero when you're with us. And then we've got Godiva, who's always talking about Godiva and Victoria's Secrets is always talking about love and loving yourself and loving other people and then enjoying the indulgences of life. So we've now kind of created a system to help people take something that is intangible and a bit gnarly and you're like, oh, I don't want to think about that. How do I fill that in? Created a little bit of structure. And what we've done that's unique is we have a primary quadrant we associate them with, and then a secondary, because everything in life is nuanced. You're never going to be 100% one thing. So we take a unique combination. And then from there, we'll actually take it back and distill it down to spit back out to you what your unique tone of voice is. Tone of voice is your ability to say what needs to be said in the right way. It also involves using the right words, but it's the tonality that you use. It's the type of words you use. It's the impression that you leave, and it's the feeling that you give people and the way you change their emotions. We all know you can say things 100 different ways. I mean, if you've ever been in a fight with
Yep.
your spouse, you could have
Yeah.
said something in a different way. We're helping you craft the way your brand, that three-dimensional person, is supposed to be speaking to your most ideal market. So we're really building a strong know, like, trust factor. That's ultimately what brand tone of voice does.
Yeah, and that was such a good explanation. And hopefully, for everyone listening, it gives you guys a chance to start thinking about that and start working on that. I wanted to ask you a really fun question because I see these mistakes and inconsistencies all the time. When it comes to branding, you work with tons of different companies, you work with people starting fresh, and you work with people that are wanting to rebrand and really just make their brand more relevant to today's audience. And I'm sure along the way you see a shit ton of mistakes happening with branding. I know one of the things that drives me crazy is inconsistencies where I see a school's logo, then I go into the actual facility and there's nothing in the facility that represents anything that I saw in the logo, or vice versa. Or the other thing that drives me crazy, and this might just be me, is when I see 40 different colors of the same logo being used
Ugh.
everywhere. And it's pick one. Just pick your palette and stick with it. And I know you have way more experience in this. So, Bijal, what are some like giant things that just drive you crazy that you see with incorrect branding?
Yeah, I think what ends up happening is that people outgrow a brand, but then they've already, especially when you're talking about brick and mortar, the sign's already made, the uniforms are already done. Oops, the business cards are printed. We still have 1,000 left over from Vistaprint. And then you're like, oh, I would have to change the thing on the mirror. And I think a lot of people, especially in the martial arts industry, don't appreciate the fact that all those little touch points create a message that says we are incongruent, but we're trying to teach you discipline through martial arts. Yo, homie, what about your discipline with actually using a consistent brand? What about respecting your actual brand so that me, as the mom who's dropping my kid off, has actual confidence in your ability to take my child, who is way more complicated than a brand, and grow that child to the next level? So people feel that like disingenuous and it like they feel that lack of integrity, and they're never going to come up and tell you that. So you wonder why you can't charge more prices. You wonder why people keep leaving, or they went to the new facility down the street. It looks cooler than yours, plain and simple. Kids want to be in places that look cool. And I would even bet to say, if you had to pick between two hotels and they were like, here's the Motel 6, or you could pick the Ritz Carlton, they're about $10 different a month. Which one do you want to go to?
I feel like I should be in church, be yelling amen right now, putting my hands up.
Amen. Cool. I mean, I've been in the martial arts space for a minute here, and people, they overemphasize the discipline of martial arts, and they
Hmm.
don't realize that this is a three-dimensional space. It's a community center. You are a community leader. You must show up like that, and you must like create your space and facility to just, again, reinforce the values that you deeply believe in that fit in. But understanding that yes, you must change your logo in your facility every 3 years. Every 3 years, there needs to be tune-ups. You need to be paying for things. It's a part of the operating expenses. So do not be lazy, and definitely don't be cheap. Otherwise, the guy down the street is going to claim your market share.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about brand refresh because back in a former life, I worked at Starbucks. And while I was working there, they refreshed their logo 2 times while I was there. And it was just like little subtle changes sometimes, or moving like the circle from the siren or whatever it is. But even like these top companies are constantly looking and trying to stay relevant with their branding. And it should be no different for a martial arts school. And I think on top of that, besides refreshing your brand, like refresh the look inside your school too. You should be doing paint touch up quarterly, all of that. Travis and I, my business partner, you haven't met yet, but I'm sure you will at some point. Him and I were just talking. The first time he took his kids to a martial arts school, like the ceiling tiles were yellow in the place, the mats had like tears in them and stuff. And it's, again, we're talking about discipline and integrity, but you can't be disciplined enough to actually fix shit that's
Yeah.
broken
Yeah.
in your
And you're trying
facility.
to build self-confidence in kids, but your facility does not scream that it's confident about itself. So these kind of things
Mm.
have subconscious impact. And you, as the owner, just because you don't care doesn't mean that your people don't care. So you really have to treat your facility like the temple that it is.
I agree. And I want to ask you too, because some of the questions that I get for schools when we start working with them, they have really outdated logos, branding, all of that is they're like, all right, once I have everything in place, how do I roll this out? So with all the companies that you've worked with that have rebranded, what are some of the key things that they have done to successfully roll it out to their clients?
Yeah, yeah. So when you're talking about a brick and mortar, so I did commercial interior design as for 13
Hmm.
years. So when you're talking about a physical space, you've got to be able to prioritize how you're rolling out the brand based on a timeline, based on your ability to keep up with the cash flow. So I'm not out here just because I'm a designer or I'm a brand person. I'm also a really smart, savvy business person. And I do not want you to go broke, go in debt, or have negative cash flow because you're like, Bijal Patel told me that if my maths didn't match, then people would hate me. No, 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 no. It's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that you do have an operating budget and you should be saving a certain amount of money from your profits every single year that should be going back into the facilities to upgrade. So you want to do a phase wise rollout. So one of the most important places you can do it when you're talking about this, upgrade the outside sign and the interior signage when you first walk in the door on the glass doors. And then when you come in and you're at that concierge desk or reception desk, you need to change the sign out. I am well aware of how expensive that monument is, but there's 2 points of contact that people need to know who you are. It's outside walking into your facility, looking at the glass, and then seeing your front desk. Then the brain starts to put less and less and less together. So then I want you to worry about the mats and accent paint. You can buy that from Home Depot, and that's easy to do. It's not expensive. But if we're talking about uniform overhauls and things like that, phase that in, but make a plan and then just stick to it.
Love that. And I'm glad you brought up that you're not just a brand design expert, you are a super successful CEO as well. What do you feel like have been some of the key habits you've installed in your life to see continued growth? Because I see you guys just taking off like wildfire right now, always posting like new client redesigns and things. It's been fucking awesome to see.
Thanks,
Um,
man.
but yeah, tell us what are some of the habits that you've learned over time that have really attributed to your success?
I think one of the biggest things is you have to monitor and constantly audit who's in your circle.
Mm.
When you don't have the right people in your circle, you have a swamp and your ass is going down. You're going down. You're going to turn into Shrek. Like, goodbye, you're dead. And that's why I really like talking to you, Adam, because being around you, being around Chris and like the crew, Kelly, all those people, you guys are lifters. You are like creme de la creme. That's why I still like all your posts and hey Shelly. Like it's like a whole crew. It's like a family. But it's people when the people around you are holding themselves to a higher standard than you even think you are, you're in the right circle. When
Mhm.
you're around people who are talking smack, questioning you on your standards, asking you dumb questions like, when's it going to be enough? What do you never, never? I'm
Uh,
going to die and it's never going to be enough because I was put on this planet to change the world and it's never going to be enough. And it's not about the money at the end of the day, but I also don't mind making the money because without making any money, I'm sorry, you cannot support any nonprofit. You cannot install positive change in the world, and you cannot actually elevate anyone around you when you be brokety broke. So I'm not playing that game. I'm going to empower and impact people, and I'm also going to be successful in the monetary aspect of my business too. So you got to audit your circle, and if they're not challenging you, you, my friend, are not in the right room.
Hell yes to all of that. I know you invest in yourself like I do to make sure that you have the right people around you and that you have people that are always challenging you to think bigger. I was telling a story at the event we had last weekend about how I was in a mastermind and I was trying to figure out if it was the right group. And then one of the women at our table stood up and she was talking about how she had a bad year last year and they only did $700 million. And I was like, I'm at the right table. I'm in, yeah,
Wow.
I was like, I'm in the right mastermind. So I think when you get around those right people, not only do they challenge you, but they also humble you too. Because sometimes we just think we're the shit and we're kicking ass, and then all of a sudden you hear about someone's bad year, and you're like, yeah, I got a little while to go still. So
A little while
I
to
love that.
go. 700 million. You're like, hey, you're okay. You're okay. You're gonna make it through.
We were talking about Michael Jordan somehow, and you're like, Adam, you are the Michael Jordan of the martial arts industry. You need to train to be a CEO. And I probably went over that conversation in my brain 1,000 times since that day, because to me, it was like, all right, well, what am I doing every single day to make sure that I am training to be the best CEO possible? At that time, my health was not great. So that became my main focus of doing
Wow.
that. And I feel the best I've ever felt. But again, it was surrounding myself with the right people, having that conversation with you where you're just like, hey, you have to train to be a CEO. I have sort of my interpretation of that, but what is training to be a CEO to you?
For me, training as a CEO is, this is like me advice. This is Bijal Patel advice
Hmm.
for myself. Is I am a very emotional person. And so to have to step into the realm of CEO where I'm still guiding our ship and leading our ship, making strategic decisions, strategic partnerships, deciding when to roll something out, when to cut something back, and when to hold on. Just hodl, hold on for dear life. We're not changing a thing. And I think a lot of people make that mistake because they want to adapt, or they're frozen in time and they're just like, they just won't move. It's fight or flight. And they go in one direction too fast or they hold on. So for me, it has really been about giving myself the grace to understand I am an emotional person. I have always been. That will never change. There is no amount of meditation or supplements I can take that will ever make me a non-emotional person. But what I've decided to do instead is I've harnessed that emotion and said, this is who I am. And I understand that. So when it comes time to make a strategic CEO decision and it's coming from a place of emotion and I'm not sure if it's emotion or it's intuition, I just wait. I just say, give it 2 days, give it a week. Do you still feel like that? When you are fast moving, aggressive, and by nature impatient, the concept of waiting 2 days to 7 days to make a decision is the worst self construed restraint that you could ever have. The other thing I'll say to round that out is believing in my team, valuing my team, and teaching my team how to think. So before I make a strategic decision, I go in with what I think it should be. But before I bleep a word, I present the problem, the case, what we need, what our outcome needs to be. And I say, what do you think? And I just shut up. And you know who has really good ideas? Your team does. And you're like,
Yes.
hey, that's cool. So I've employed a lot of that too. And it really takes some burden off my shoulders because the team is wise and they continue to get sharpened up with their pencils. I'll make the bottom line decision at the end of the day. But when you listen, you win. I know. Patient, waiting, and listening. Not the sexiest
Yes.
answer I wanted to give.
No, but I can identify with that a lot because I think my default brain is emotion driven, and then my CEO brain has to be logic based, right? So just like you, we just had a really big personnel decision we had to make, and I
Mm.
probably waited 2 weeks before I made the decision, and then called every one of my team members. I'm like, hey, is this an emotional decision or is this doing the right thing for the future of the company and the future of what we're building here? Getting that validation from the rest of the team that, hey, no, that is a logical decision, not an emotional decision, just sort of
Good.
reaffirms, and it goes back to what you said earlier about your inner circle. You have the right people around you. They're going to help give you the right advice in those different decision times.
Yeah.
I love when you guys post rebrands on Facebook and I get to see it. And I know you guys have been waiting forever to post our rebrand and where we're going, but
We're
it should be
excited about
happening.
it.
I think the lease just got signed this weekend, so I think we're almost there. Yeah,
Ah, congratulations, Adam. That's
thank you.
amazing.
Longest
Wow.
lease negotiation of my life, but
You
it
were like, this
finally
is going to
happened.
be
So I
done in
think,
1 week. You remember
yeah,
that?
that was like what, 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
It's like
And
17 years
here
ago
we
is what it
are.
feels
Yeah, that's what
like.
it feels like at this point. Thank you. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the other brands that you've developed and worked with and challenges and some success stories that you guys have had as well?
Yeah, sure. We've worked with financial companies, with digital marketers, with coaches, with personal brands, tech SaaS companies, task management help companies, precious metals, fractional CFO services, an alternative college, you name it, we've done
Everything.
it. We've done it. We're about to do a dog facility. I'm about to brand a 9-figure entrepreneur. Just landed that. So super
Awesome.
excited about that. We literally just get everything. What's been successful is our process. And this is coming from a non-process person. If you had told me 2 years ago you're going to have a branding process, I probably would have knocked you out. And I don't even have martial arts training, but I would have been like, over my cold, dead body. Creative is meant to be felt. It is emotional. It is right brain. Do not processify me. Now I'm like, we have a process and it's 8 weeks, and you're going to do this in this 8 week process. We've been able to get success for all of the brands who come through our program and our process. We'll refund somebody who isn't, but I haven't refunded anybody since I think I refunded somebody who was like 2 months into when I started branding. And then she decided she hated her company and wanted to blow the whole thing up. And I was like, why don't you just take your money back? Because you're mad at me, but you're really mad at yourself. And so we haven't refunded anybody on branding since then. And I think that
That's
says a
awesome.
lot. Shows our commitment to who we are and what we do. But again, we have an 8 week process called Brandfluencer. It is an almost scientific process where I took my 13 years working corporate America. I did corporate interior design for all these Fortune 500 companies, big names like Bank of America, Heinz, Johnson Johnson's, like recognizable names. So I understand the ethos of what a brand is supposed to be, and then how is it relevant to creating culture and attracting and retaining staff, to making sure that the facility then actually reflects and represents that high level caliber and that unique point of view they have. So having done that, we reverse engineered it for small businesses. So that's what we've been able to do process wise.
Since you work with so many entrepreneurs, what are some of the challenges that you have found from working with them where they just get stuck? And I know your system that you mentioned was so damn good to prompt thought and creativity. I remember I was just in my backyard staring at the stars, just filling out the worksheets that you guys gave me. And it's not just, hey, we're going to ask you a question and write down your answer. You're like, hey, part one is we want you to brain dump in this direction and just throw anything out there. It doesn't matter if it sucks or not. We'll help you sort through that. And for me, that was huge because I always worry about, is it right when I write it down? But you're like, no,
Yeah.
just throw it all out there, word vomit all over the page. And that was great. But so I know you guys help solve a lot of the challenges that people typically have with branding. But as you work with more entrepreneurs, where do you see them getting stuck at?
The first is at mission statement and vision statement. They have not been taught to dream. They have been taught to make money and scale. Make money, so let's scale this puppet. You're not scaling anything, okay? First of all, calm down. So they just want to sell more things. They want to market more things. They want more of their campaigns working. They want to grow an audience and a following. So I constantly get people being like, I want to build a brand. Okay, well, we're going to have to dream for you to build a brand. And the amount of people I have found who literally put an upper limit on them, they stick themselves into a box and close the lid, or put themselves in a cage and close the door and there's no lock. It is so scary, Adam, for adults to actually dream. So that's our first like momentous, enormous double, triple speed bump. Some people get stuck there. Other people come to us, they're like, I absolutely hate my brand name. I'm ashamed of it. Help me fix this. Okay, you ready for a multi-week process? This is gonna take some time, and we're gonna have to work it, and we're gonna have to evolve, and we're gonna have to sit with it. That's a hang up. And then I would say probably the third most common one is actually the tagline. So we're like, great, now we've done all of this. We have 3 to 10 words, and we want to come up with a short, punchy, and effective tagline that represents who you are, that's easily memorable. And people are like, what? That one's another point. We used to get people stuck on the logo and the visuals and that kind of stuff. But now our process, I think, is so dialed in. We pretty much hit it the first time around. If we don't hit it the first time around, we nail it on the second time around.
Yeah, you guys, if I remember it right, you guys nailed our logo first time, like the design. Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, yep, that would be perfect by itself or with the word martial arts underneath. And I love that you were talking about the dreaming side of it. Because I think a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs let the people around them sort of limit their dreams as well, or they're afraid to even talk about their dreams outright because they're afraid someone else is going to shit on it, which I sort of take that as a compliment. When someone starts shitting on my dreams, I'm like, they're big enough now. I think that's a good sign for a lot of people. I wanted to talk about the values part that you helped us come up with, because one of the things I love about you, Bijal, is that you are very direct and transparent. And I always get along with people that don't sugarcoat shit and are just like, This is what it is. So I remember like you looked at our core values that we had and you're like, Adam, these are terrible. And I was like, thank you. What else? And you came up, and are you cool if I read off the core values you came up with
I
us
would
for
love
Move?
that. I would love that. They're
Sweet.
yours.
Okay. So these I thought were so spot on, and I know without knowing the entire brand, it might be a little out of context for some of you guys, but we came up with six together. Unified connection was the first one, empowered growth, revolutionary influence, fierce gratitude, infinite transformation, unshakable authenticity. And
Mm.
one of my favorite things about this is not only that you guys really personified the brand and what we stand for well with these values, but to me, they're so catchy because it's like fierce gratitude. You don't hear those two words together very often, but if you like drill down to the core of it, it's like, man, we want you to show such a sense of being grateful that it is done in every single opportunity, relationship, interaction. Even if you're having a shitty day, guess what? You're still showing fierce gratitude throughout. And for our
Mhm.
employees and our athletes that we're going to have as part of this, for them to be able to grab onto that as a parent, if my child is showing fierce gratitude on a daily basis, man, I know I don't have a kid that's a complainer. I know I have a kid
Yes.
that's looking for opportunities to say thank you, to hug people, and all of that. And I was just so impressed. And I remember when you guys read them off the first time, I was just like, yes, yes, yes. And then at the end, you guys are like, you don't need anything changed. I was like, I couldn't have said any of that better myself. So when you guys were going through the process of constructing these core values, because I'll be honest, they are completely different from what we had before in the best way possible. What were some of the things that you guys went through with me? Because I don't even remember this part of the process as much, but to help come up with these.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Deb on my team is a complete rock star. And I think her
Yes.
zone of genius is writing, we call them core behaviors. So you'll notice the difference in everything Adam just mentioned for his six core behaviors. There are two words paired together. And that's a way to take like something like gratitude. And there's a lot of companies that say gratitude is a core value. A lot of companies use integrity, which I'm like, are you Bank of America? Because that's their core value too. You're not. So it just, these words get overused, which means that they are generalized and they're not unique. It means they're meaningless. They're useless. No one cares about it. You have five core value, one word words thrown on the side of your wall and no one cares. I bet your employees can't even repeat what your core values are. They don't care. They're meaningless. So what we do, Adam, is we create a core behavior. So we're taking a value and then we're saying this is the value, but here's like the adjective or adverb to actually exemplify what we're saying. And we're really intentional about picking those words so that your tone of voice is amplified and then the concept behind the company. What's interesting about this is with martial arts, you were joking around about the dragons and the bears and
Sure.
the lions and all that
We
stuff,
hurt
right?
some feelings.
Go ahead, hurt them. I mean,
Yeah.
they heard it here first, so hurt them. But think about
Yep.
ferocious gratitude. Like that could be like a lion or a tiger or a dragon. So we took that very real, like animalistic, like nature and power. And also animals have a certain sense of like grace. And also the animal kingdom is just as graceful as it is, will eat you up and spit you out and leave you for dead. We all watch Lion King, okay? We know what this is like.
Yep.
So understanding there's that yin and yang. So with yours and understanding that you're in the martial arts industry, we wanted to make sure tone of voice was strong. We picked up that yin and yang that exists in the martial arts world and also added you are succinct and direct. And when people meet you, they feel that energy. And so your words needed to represent that really strong personality and conviction. You carry a lot of conviction with you. So those are the kind of things that we look at when we're rounding out what those core behaviors are. So
Yeah, and you guys knocked that shit out of the park.
that's all Deb.
The
She's a rock star.
Yeah, well, you found her, so congrats. If I didn't like you so much, I'd be trying to poach her. She's that
Deb's
good.
staying with me.
Yeah. I respect you too much to do that, so.
Thank you.
But
Thank
if she
you.
ever quits for any reason, no, joking.
No.
As,
I take it as a compliment and I receive that. So this is when, like Adam, this is when you know you have good people. So when you go back to talking about the
yes.
mindset of a CEO, if people, one of my coaches said, if people are not trying to poach your people, you're actually not effective as a leader. And I felt
Yes.
that. Thank you, actually.
I love that. I was actually just thinking about that this morning too with our own people because we had a couple of them get job offers in the last couple of weeks and they turned them down. I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
all
we
right.
love it. Yes. That's awesome.
The last thing I want to touch on with you, because I think it's sort of foreign for our industry, is you came up with brand hashtags for our brand. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of people, when I see them just posted on social, it's just sort of random hashtags they're throwing out there for whatever industry or audience they're trying to attack. So when coming up with brand hashtags, like for ours, we came up with making movement matter, spelled with our version of move dubs, hashtag move and hashtag make your move. What are some tips that you can give to owners on how to develop those hashtags and how many they should have?
Don't have more than three because you're probably going to get overwhelmed. Try to
Yep.
put your name into it and try to be witty. Like people don't really care about your company. So let's just remember that. So, for example, one of our hashtags, they don't care about you. They
I
care
love
about
that.
what's in it for them with them. So one of our hashtags is like hashtag launch brand reveal. Now I could call it a brand reveal, but that would get lost into the ether of anybody. This is a launch brand reveal. And our one of our company's handles is actually we launch you. And that's been it from the very beginning. But the company name is Launch, but the ethos of the company is we are here to pull out and excavate your exact secret sauce and where your zone of genius is and why you're special. And we package it up and get it out in the world. So we literally launch you and we launch you and your brand. It takes a lot of creative effort to come up with what those are. You obviously had a really strong name.
Yep.
So we were able to ideate through that. But I would say just use your name and try to come up with something witty that creates a movement or has some banter or something that's funny. Let's not forget, in this world of everybody trying to sell you everything on the internet right now, being a little entertaining goes a long way. So it's okay if
Yes.
it's just entertaining or fun. So that's what I would stick with. But do not do more than three. You ain't ready for that. You ain't ready for that.
Man, you dropped so much knowledge on everyone. I think they should listen to this a few different times.
Oh,
I have to say, one of my favorite people to follow is actually you because I remember you did a post that you're like, I'm going to start getting aggressive on social not too long ago. And then you're like, fire post after fire post after fire post. So it's been really fun to watch. And I
yeah.
know when you said that, I was like, yes, let's go.
Yep.
So where can people follow you? Where can they find out more about your company? Where's the best
Yeah.
place for them to go?
So find me on Facebook. It's Bijal, Bijal.launch, Launch. Find me on my personal profile. I'm over there, or come hang out. You'll find all my socials. It's the same handle for Instagram, or you can find us on our website, which is relaunch.design.
And if you guys are in the Relentless Mastermind, we are working on getting Bijal to come and present at one of our events this year. So you guys will get to meet her in person and pick her brain. And she's also just one of the coolest people to hang out with at events. So
Oh,
we look
thanks.
forward to that. We're big on personality in our events. But
Yeah, that's
Bijal,
what
thank you.
I miss coming. So I'd love to come. I mean, I miss the Tim Grover one, man. I'm like mad. I'm mad about it.
Sorry, we're constantly leveling up, so it's just gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. So
I love that.
when you're there next time, you're gonna be like, hell yes, glad
It's gonna be
glad I'm
like
on this one.
Oprah or something. I'm gonna be like, is that Oprah? And you're like, yeah, she just wanted to swing by. She just wanted to make movement matter. And we're like, what? It's like
She's not even
Oprah.
speaking. She's just in the audience. She just wants to
She's
listen. No
really
big
just
deal.
here to learn more about move. And
Pretty much, pretty much. But I'm so grateful that you took the time out of your day because I know you are on calls constantly helping people to level up their brand, and I think we just gave a whole bunch of great knowledge and experience to this industry. And now, time for all you guys listening to take action.
let's do this. Thank you so much for having me, Adam. You are an incredible podcast host. I've never had anybody ask me so many detailed questions, but I'm not surprised. Like you're just Adam Kifer, and this is how you roll. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.